Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot see you, but I hope you can see me because we have these big spotlights on us. Welcome to the Textiles session. So for the next 45 minutes, the idea is that we will be discussing, I hope with all of you, the competitiveness of the European textile and fashion industry. You sit a little far away. If you feel like coming a bit closer, feel free to be closer to us, because I would like to start with some, well, actually I have bad news and I have good news for you. The bad news is that we were supposed to have 3 speakers who will animate the discussion this afternoon. One of those 3 has fallen ill yesterday, so apologies from Ewelina Paprowicz, who was supposed to join us, but she's ill. So we only have 2. Now the good news is that means we have more time, I hope, to discuss with all of you. To discuss about the future of textiles and fashion in Europe, because that's the whole purpose. And we will do that so with Jana Hrčková, representing Decathlon, a brand that I think all of you know quite well, and with Giuseppe Finocchiaro, who is the president of RETESSILE, who is a social cooperative engaged in collecting and sorting of textile waste. I will come back to that later on. Because we have a bit more time, because we are short of Ewelina, not with us, I want to take a few minutes of introduction. First of all, to present myself. My name is Dirk Vantyghem. I'm the Director General of EURATEX, which is the European Textile and Apparel Confederation. So my role is to lobby, to represent the interests of the textile industry in Brussels, with the European Commission, etc. So what I would like to do is to really give you a bit of background about the state of the textile industry, what is happening in Brussels in terms of strategy, what is happening within the industry, what are the challenges that we are facing, just to share with you. And then obviously I will come to Jana and Giuseppe to get their perspective on what I will say. Of course, it's difficult. I don't know each of you personally. I don't know to what extent you are familiar with textiles. Maybe, if I can see this, are some of you involved with textile industry? Maybe you can raise your hand. A few? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So let me just try to summarize the status of our industry in the EU. Just some basic numbers. We have around 200,000 textile companies still operating, mostly SMEs, employing roughly 1,300,000 workers, and generating a global turnover of around 170 billion euro. So these are pretty still important numbers. So the textile industry in Europe is still important. And when we say textiles, we say many different things. We think about fashion, garments, what we are wearing. But textiles is also what you see here, is what I'm walking on, is textiles on this chair, it's textiles in your car, it's textiles in your mobile phone, it's textiles in the hospitals, it's textiles in the army, defense, unfortunately. So textiles is a very, very wide sector. And again, when we talk about the challenges, about the regulation, it's obviously important to bear in mind that we have very different type of products. And within the garment, within the fashion, we have the high-end luxury brands that you all know from Italy and France. We have mainstream brands, we have the fast fashion, we have sportswear. So there's a great variety in this textile ecosystem that we represent. The industry is facing, I would say, a big change. And therefore the companies, those 200,000 companies that we have, are going through some rough times, I would say. They face big change at different levels. The first one is a change from a regulatory perspective. So the European Commission is very busy preparing a new set of rules and regulations that will determine how textile companies will operate in the future. And these rules relate very much to sustainability, so to reduce the environmental footprint of the textile industry, using less chemicals, less water, trying to push or to promote products that last longer, to increase the transparency of what we make towards the consumer through what is called the digital product passport, to punish or reward textile manufacturers through an EPR system, like a taxation, whereby, if I may say so, dirty textile products will have to pay a higher cost, a higher fee than more sustainable products. So there is a lot of legislation, and in Brussels we often talk about 16 pieces of legislation which are being developed as we speak. And this process is ongoing. Some pieces of the legislation are already adopted. Other pieces are still under discussion between the Commission, the Parliament, and the industry, etc. But what you need to realize is that in, I would say, 3-4 years from now, again, the textile industry will operate in a different regulatory framework, which again causes a lot of uncertainty, because companies say, first, they are concerned to understand all those changes in the legislation. Then second, they say, what is the cost of that legislation? How are we going to control that everybody is respecting those different legislation? Because if I comply with more strict standards on sustainability, on chemical use, etc., but my competitor in Europe or competitor outside Europe is not doing the same, do I lose my competitiveness? We have a lot of waste, textile waste, because we have a lot of garments being bought, used, thrown away. So what are we going to do with that waste? We are supposed to promote reuse. Eventually we will have to recycle, but do we have enough capacity to recycle all those old garments? What are the different technologies? So a lot of uncertainties, a lot of questions on how to anticipate and how to react to this, to all this regulation that is coming. At the same time, there is a lot of change when looking into the market for textiles, specifically for fashion products. I think all of you are familiar with the online platforms like Shein, Temu, and others that are offering low value, low cost products entering into the market very quickly, very efficiently, but where there is basically no control on whether these products comply with all the European rules, whether they are safe for the consumer when it comes to certain chemicals. So there is a lot of competition coming from outside, from China, from Bangladesh, through these online platforms, where it's very difficult for European manufacturers to be competitive, to offer maybe a better quality product, but at a higher price. So how do we manage that relationship? Then, of course, when talking about markets, we have the tariff war. You all know about that, what Mr. Trump has launched, which has a very big impact on the textile industry, because the textile value chain is a very globalized value chain. Whatever we produce, even in Europe, the cotton is coming from somewhere else, or the wool is coming from far away. The polyester is probably coming from somewhere else. So textiles is a very, very globalized supply chain. And so introducing this tariff war of Mr. Trump is very disruptive for the textile industry. What do brands have to do? Where do they source their products from? if Mr. Trump is launching 100% tariffs on this, on that. So again, a lot of uncertainty. And maybe a third area of change, change of regulation, change of markets and market behavior. Also a lot of change in the technology perspective. The textile industry is going quite rapidly through a process of digitalization in the production process, in the whole planning process, in the relation with the consumer. There's also a lot of innovation on developing new fibers, bio-based fibers, so biodegradable fibers. There's a lot of innovation in recycling technology. As I said, we have an important textile waste problem in Europe, 7-8 million tons of textile waste that we need to manage. So what kind of technologies can we develop to handle, to manage this, this whole recycling? So also on the technology perspective, there are many changes that are happening. So my short introduction, just to say, to emphasize how much the textile industry in Europe, again, on the one hand, is an important segment of the European economy in terms of jobs, in terms of volume, in terms of reputation. You know, we are proud of the quality of the products that we are producing, and the value of the European brands, of the fashion brands, is outstanding. So it's important, but at the same time, we have so many questions towards the new regulations, towards global markets, towards consumer behavior, towards new technology. And therefore, the textile industry is, it sounds a bit like a slogan, but it's a bit at a crossroads. Where do we go? Where do we go? And many of my textile CEOs are thinking a lot, saying, what do we do? Do we invest in sustainability? Do we shut down our production here in Poland and we reopen the production in Turkey or Pakistan or Bangladesh? Do we invest in sustainability, or do we wait until the legislation is coming? So it's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of question marks, and obviously there's no single answer, there's no simple answer, but that is the environment, that is the context in which our textile industry is currently operating. And of course, I don't want to leave it, let's say, in a negative way, but what we are trying to do, also as EURATEX, working in Brussels, is to try to address each of those points on the regulation, on the market, on the fair competition, on the innovation, etc. Try to push for the right answers, try to push for the solutions from a legal perspective, from a technology perspective, so that in, let's say, 5 years from now, our European textile industry will come out of this kind of a transition period, will come out much stronger than today. That's our ambition, but that's the target, but that is indeed thinking about those multiple questions that we need to handle all together. So that is, if I may, a short maybe introduction for those of you who would not be familiar with the industry. So again, important industry, very visible industry. You know, you're wearing textiles, you're sitting on textiles. Textiles are everywhere. And again, the big question that we have in Brussels with the Commission is how to secure a competitive textile industry in Europe in the future. That's the bottom line of our work. So on that basis, that's my kind of introduction. Let's move into some kind of discussion, and really I would encourage all of you to participate in this small group. And Jana, let's come maybe first to you. Probably you can introduce briefly yourself and Decathlon, and then maybe try immediately to maybe bring your perspective to what I was trying to say in terms of the challenges, how a European brand like Decathlon is anticipating all those changes, how you try to remain competitive, in that global market. So please, I'll happily give you the floor.
Yeah, thanks for this intro, Dirk. So again, my name is Jana. I'm from the Brussels policy team. I work on sustainable textiles and sustainability in general within our public affairs team. As Dirk mentioned, at the moment in Brussels, textiles is one of the top topics. There are so many legislative initiatives coming out. At the same time, it's no surprise the industry has been severely under-regulated. So we do know that a lot of legislation had to come in a way, and I would like to make this clear from the beginning. As an industry, sometimes there's this misalignment between what the politicians think the industry wants and what the industry actually wants. We don't necessarily want no rules. We want good rules that are predictable, that are clear, and that are enforceable. And I think the upcoming initiatives in the field of textile are a good example of that. For example, when it comes to extended producer responsibility, we're really waiting to make this work. And why is that? Because, as Dirk said, there are so many challenges ahead for the industry. And as a brand that really cares about bringing low-impact clothing, low-impact textiles at a good price, making sports accessible to everyone, we do know we cannot do this ourselves. There's an innovation gap in Europe. At the moment, we have 1%, maybe 2% of textile fiber-to-fiber recycling of textiles in Europe. Well, this needs to change, and this gap needs to be closed. And, well, we as Decathlon are trying to do our part, trying to do the right thing, but we need to work together. And what do we need for that? From the legislative perspective, obviously, harmonization. We need the rules to be similar or ideally the same within Europe and ideally beyond Europe. Decathlon works in 72 countries. So already having a European single market is an immense help. Going beyond that, even better. For circularity, this is really, really crucial. Small countries, for example, I come from Slovakia. It makes no sense to build up a system for recycling, a system for reuse for Slovakia only. This can be and should be a cross-border initiative. And the EU Commission really can step up here. And we're really happy that this is already happening. And then if I may still, one other thing, we're really looking forward to having ambitious rules when it comes to environmental performance of textiles. This would be the ESPR, ensuring that clothes and textiles are more durable, ensuring that there's a recycled content legislation so that we really provide an incentive for the market and an incentive for further investment in the technologies. Then we can discuss how this should look like. Maybe we have some disagreements. We would say that post-industrial content should also be included, not only fiber-to-fiber recycling, but we can take it up later. But still, already having recycled content rules is a game changer. And a company like ours definitely welcomes that because we feel this will really energize the market. The same goes for durability, the same goes for other topics that are being discussed. Maybe we don't yet have answers for all of them, but already discussing, being at a forum like this, it feels amazing. I don't think we were here 15 years ago.
Okay, thank you. And maybe before coming to you, some follow-up questions. So, again, you are a brand trying indeed to promote sustainability throughout the value chain. How do you try to work with the industry, with the manufacturing industry to introduce, I don't know, innovative technologies, new materials? What kind of cooperation do you have between the brand Decathlon and the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, thanks. Definitely, this is part of our mission and part of what we are doing at the moment. And again, this is why it's so interesting because it's entrepreneurial. It's sometimes hit and miss. But a company like Decathlon can really take this responsibility and invest in some innovative companies. I don't know, I can provide an example of RETESSILE, a really interesting innovative startup with their proprietary technology for recycling polyester, fiber to fiber. Well, not fiber to fiber. They recycle polyester to monomers and then they can be reused. And the remaining materials can also be used. For example, if there's a mix of polyester and cotton can be taken aside and used separately, and polyester can be turned into polyester again. For now, is it scaled up? Not yet. Will it be scaled up? We hope so. And there are projects like this, rehabs that Dirk is also included in, and we need to figure it out together. And that's why the collaboration between brands, collaboration with the governments, collaborations with the regions and universities is really, really important here. And for Europe, for European recycling industry, circular industry, and manufacturing industry, it's not exactly there. There's a huge competitiveness gaps. There's a gap also in the technologies. And yeah, we need to close it.
Yeah, thanks. And part of that kind of a partnership also includes the social cooperatives with a specific responsibility or role in collecting textile waste. In Europe, in the EU, just to give you one figure, we have approximately 7 million tons of textile waste every year. So garments being thrown away. Europe, the European Union has already decided that as of actually this year, this textile waste needs to be collected separately. So you can no longer throw your old clothes in the bin. It has to be collected separately. So also here in Poland, maybe you don't realize, but this is in fact already legislation that should be implemented by member states since the beginning of this year. So we need to collect separately these end-of-use kind of garments. And then is the question, how do we collect that? How do we sort them? Can we reuse them? Can we or should we eventually recycle them? And that's where social cooperatives like RETESSILE plays a role. And therefore, Giuseppe, I'll happily give you the floor to explain a little bit who you are and what is specifically your role in this sorting and collecting process. Please.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I serve as Vice President of Vesti Solidale, a social cooperative that for over 2 decades has combined inclusive employment with hands-on sustainability in the field of textile collection and sorting. I'm also president of RETESSILE, the Italian national network of social cooperatives working on textile reuse, recycling, and circular innovation, bringing together grassroots enterprises, local communities, and social values to transform the textile chain. These 2 roles reflect the dual perspective I bring here today. One grounded in daily operations, the other committed to systematic change. In 2025, millions of tons of textile waste will be collected across Europe. This is according to the European Environment Agency. But today, in many regions, we still don't know who will actually do the job. There are not enough treatment plants. They are not enough capable, transparent operators. And most importantly, there is no fair, local, effective model in place. We today already are that model. I represent Vesti Solidale, a social enterprise that has been managing waste with its own fleet, its own workers, its own facilities. As our name suggests, we started with textile and we built a full value chain around them. Collection, logistics, sorting, preparation for use, second-hand sales, and social tailoring. But we aren't only about clothes. We also manage other waste and streams and provide consultancy on sustainability and ESG strategies. Our goal is to combine environment impact and social inclusion in every operations. We work with materials that are often considered waste and with people who are often left out of the labor market. We believe both deserve a second chance. As Vice President, I represent a team that sees circularity not only as a technical challenge, but as a way to build a more inclusive and resilient economy. We believe in a different way to manage the actual situation of not only textile waste, but all the waste destined to second hand. Our mission is today to bring vulnerable people into a sustainability industrial process. But in this way, we are not alone. In 2011, we founded RETESSILE, the first Italian non-profit network for textile waste. RETESSILE is a business network of social cooperatives operating as reuse enterprises. We today have 9 sorting plants. We share facilities, logistics, and common standards to deliver traceable, transparent, and qualified services. It's an industrial, coordinated, and locally rooted response to sector challenges. After this, in 2024, we launched RETESSILE, a national alliance of social cooperatives with 2 clear goals. To build a textile waste supply chain that is social, environmental, and industrial, and to become a strategic voice in shaping EPR schemes. We are not here to ask for a seat at the table. We are here to raise a red flag. If the PR system excludes social enterprises, if it's designed top-down without roots in the territories, if quality is sacrificed for quantity, then the system will collapse. Today in Italy, we have the similar situation that we have in Mexico and in South Africa for quantity. I work and I live in Milan, okay? And the situation of bins of separately collected is this. We offer another path. A network of operators who already collect, sort, and treat textile every single day, who create jobs where the market fails, who reinvest in the communities, who don't chase profits but pursue long-term impact. We work today with brand luxury in several fields, and we work with fast fashion, with ultra fast fashion, and we search to achieve together a similar way to manage and make sustainable this field. That's what a truly circular economy looks like: economic, environmental, and human. Because the green transition is not just a tech issue, it's a matter of power, governance, and vision. And who better than social enterprises, already active, already skilled, to deliver a transparent, traceable, inclusive value chain? We have today in Italy and Europe a system non-traceable. We don't have transparency. In Italy, we don't know the waste textile products in 2024. Okay, not me, but the institution, the government. We are ready. Our hands are in the work. Our eyes are on the future. And we ask Europe to believe in transition, with impact and its core, not just a number. We are ready to co-build with the enterprises, and we believe that in this situation we can achieve a supreme goal from local territories to a national or an European field context.
Okay. Thank you. It's interesting to hear that indeed the social enterprises, social cooperatives have a role to play in partnership with the industry, with the brands, with the regions, the public authorities. So as I said in the beginning, to make this whole transition for the textile industry, textile companies need to get out of their, I would say, traditional silos. You know, the industry, I can say that, traditionally used to work in his own well-known territory. Because of all this change, all of this pressure from the regulation, from the markets, the industry is forced to look a little bit beyond its natural or its kind of usual partnerships and contacts. And so establishing this wider ecosystem, including social cooperatives, is something that is happening indeed these days. I don't know if people are familiar, because you mentioned, both of you mentioned the EPR schemes. Just for you to know if you're familiar with that concept. So this is I call it a taxation that will be introduced also here, everywhere in the European Union. When, as a consumer, you buy a garment, in the future, you will pay the price of the garment, and there will be an additional tax levy on that garment.
Or a bonus.
Huh?
Or a bonus.
Or a bonus, thank you, yes. And depending on how sustainable that garment will be, it will be a higher tax, or it could even be a bonus. It could be a negative tax, so it could be a discount. And obviously the idea of this system is to, on the one hand, convince the consumer to buy more sustainable garments, like give them a little price incentive. But at the same time, the idea is to collect through these EPR fees a substantial amount of money. And that money will be managed by what is called a PRO, a Producer Responsibility Organization, established all around Europe. They will collect the money, and they should be using that money to invest in the collection, recycling, in creating this circular value chain of the textile industry. So the idea is really to ask everybody to make a small contribution through this EPR system, and then collectively use those funds to help create a more circular value chain. So that is the plan, and it's linked to the Waste Framework Directive, so a piece of legislation which is being developed in Brussels, which is almost adopted. It's been postponed, but it's coming very soon. So EPR schemes will also come here in Poland and in any other member states. And the second, I think, concept that has been mentioned is the DPP, is the Digital Product Passport. Some of you know it, others maybe not. There, the idea from Brussels is to have a unique passport for every garment which is placed on the market. So we're talking of billions of passports, and the passport should give the full information how this jacket was made, where the wool, where the sheep were standing, where the wool was taken, which chemicals have been used to treat the wool, where the spinning took place of the fibers, and the entire process until the final jacket. All of that information should be included in a single digital product passport. Again, the legislation is already adopted, so it's already, if you want, decided that there will be a digital product passport. What we are discussing in Brussels is how exactly will it work? Which kind of data? How to put those data? And there are many technical questions, legal questions, confidentiality questions that need to be treated. But the principle is decided. There will be a digital passport for every garment sold on the European market. The purpose is, of course, because you refer to it, is to create transparency. As you say, today, we don't know where the garments are coming from, how they were made, in which conditions, which chemicals have been used. As a consumer, you don't know. You know a little bit through the labeling, a few things. So the idea is to really force the sector, the industry, us, to be more transparent. What we hope, I insist the word, what we hope is that by increasing the transparency towards the consumer will be more conscious in deciding what type of product he or she will buy. If the consumer understands where the product comes from, under which conditions it has been produced, what is the durability, the sustainability, all these criteria of that product, hopefully the consumer will be able and willing to buy more sustainable, higher quality textile products. So that is a little bit the theory, can I say, behind the plan. We will see in the next few years to what extent this theory becomes a reality. Of course, that is the question. Please, let's open up now for some. Yeah, there's a mic coming.
My name is Diana Spasojevic. I come from KPMG EU office in Brussels, so also closely following the regulatory developments. Not necessarily zooming in the textile world, but ESPR is a game changer. And a few years back, I think 2007, 2008, it was on with the chemicals policy, with the REACH regulation and so on. There was a kind of a paradigm shift in a way how companies need to do and tracking your supply chain and so on. And we also worked on a digital product passport, and I wanted to link to that, where the textiles is among first of the sectors to be hit in terms of preparing, while the clarity still is in making, kind of. So I would be very curious to hear from Decathlon, this aspect that you also mentioned at the very beginning, digitalization. So managing the data, managing the supply chain information, kind of, I assume, but would like, that managing suppliers, ensuring that the products compliant, placed on the market are aligned. But also the way how you see, and that brings another link with the, when you speak about the EPR schema. So many years back on terms of sustainability, we always relied that the people will buy more quality, greener and so on, that we are so responsible and green-minded. But naked truth is that we are not. We go what it's cheaper and so on, which we are in a situation when it comes to the textile industry. So how to make a thinking out loud. I mean, I would love to hear from your thoughts, building in how to make this link between, on one side, DPP, which will become alive eventually, so to have this digital data carrier on our clothes that we buy. And one, when we scan that, I could say, well, if I buy a nice Italian brand and I pay a nice amount for the jacket because I believe it's a quality and it's the way to go, what would be my bonus on the EPR schema to have some kind of incentive, or what potentially other incentives could be introduced so that our consumers would be more... So food for thought. I mean, just something that I would like to hear. I think it's a really, like you said, it's a critical times. It's the shift for the textiles in comparison maybe to the others. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Maybe I can start from the very end. ESPR hopefully will be a basis for future eco-modulation under extended producer responsibility schemes. It's a great tool to ensure that the eco-modulation will be harmonized within the EU, that the rules will be, if not the same, then similar, and that they will be, and we are really counting on the European Commission to hurry up with the implementing act that I know they will be preparing as soon as the delegated act is out. And then, as Dirk mentioned then the bonus-malus system, we need to make sure we cover the cost, the real cost of the waste, and then we can start playing around with the sums. The companies that play the transition game, that are investing in sustainability, some of them might even be benefiting, and we see this happening in France already, where they have one of the first PROs that's fully functioning, operating, and for us it's almost like a laboratory. Like, not everything works perfectly, but my colleague is on the board, and thanks to that we already have a lot of experience, a lot of data, importantly, because data is also missing, to see what works, what doesn't work. And we, for example, see that some SMEs, they get money out of the system because they are like really trying to, make sure that their product is of high quality, low impact, and then why not? Others are paying. And linked to this, thanks to the PRO existing, and hopefully in the future, we will be able to set meaningful targets for the EPR schemes, because now, at the end, in the text of Waste Framework Directive, the legislators decided not to include targets. We do know how things work when there are no targets. So I really hope that now, when the obligation will be there, in a few years, the Commission will look at the numbers and come up with reasonable targets for reductions, for recycling, for sorting, for everything, and we can take it from there. To have what? Absolutely. That's one thing. And for just very quickly, I'll touch on DPP. So in the first moment, I believe the DPP is under ESPR legislation. So it will maybe be less about the supply chain and more about the environmental performance. So it will include information on durability, recycled content, as I said, maybe repairability. We don't know yet. So we are really expecting this. And of course, the more information the Commission provides to us, the better prepared we will be, and less stress there will be among my colleagues getting ready for this. But yeah, we are ready to collaborate and to provide our experience, of course. And Decathlon is in a bit of a privileged position because we already have a system that hopefully can be transformed into DPP easily. All our products are already covered by RFID technology, so we do have something very similar. And let's see how the DPP itself will look like for different products. Of course, textiles first, but then for us, the biggest question would be about the data points, and that's yeah.
You want to add, or?
Yes, I think that I am an environmental consultant. When I study, when I see the different law in the different countries of Europe, I am afraid. I think that today we speak only of EPR schemes. When I see the history of other EPR schemes, for instance, packaging, electronic, battery, the directive of electronic is 2014. We don't have today yet a ultimate producer responsibility. The problem is this. If I export a monitor in Arabia, in Africa, and I don't pay the plant in Africa, the problem is this. So I ask to work with a brand, with producer, to achieve a solution that permit to raw material, to end waste, to post-producer waste, to people, to work in local territories and develop a linked strategy. Okay, we try to make this in this context.
Yeah. And maybe just adding on asking, how can we convince the consumers, right, to buy more sustainable garments? One other element that will play a role, that should play a role, is the so-called product environmental footprint. It's another abbreviation in Brussels, the PEF. For those in Brussels, they know PEF, which is a way to try to establish an objective kind of benchmark of what is now the footprint of producing this jacket. And there's a lot of work that's been put on this, a lot of discussions, trying to bring in the impact of transport, of water use, of chemical use, the durability aspects, what is better, a natural fiber versus synthetic fiber, a lot of very difficult discussions. But the idea is to come up with more clarity, again, towards the consumer. And if we have such a kind of a benchmark to say the standard or the average footprint of a t-shirt is X, and then as a brand, if you can say, look, I am better than X, you know, I am better than the average, that should, again, maybe help to convince the consumer to buy. I fully agree with you. This will hopefully help. The bottom line remains price. And that is one other proposal that as EuRATEX we have made, even though it's not competence of Europe, is to make a different VAT rate. Why don't we say sustainable garments, 6%, instead of the standard 21%? I can assure you consumers will massively go for sustainable garments. Of course, it's member states to decide, it's not Europe. And member states look at their budgets, and most of them are short of money. So, but it's an idea that is floating in the Brussels bubble. Why don't we help the consumer to buy more sustainable, and therefore, when they see a label, you know, only 6% instead of the usual 21%, they will go for it. But these are ideas, again, that are floating on the table.
No, if I can just add a very small thing to that. In Brussels, I know that several member states have been floating the idea of taxing second-hand producers and second-hand products. So in line with what Dirk said, this wouldn't be going in the direction of supporting, respecting the waste pyramid in the direction of closing the loop. Second-hand was already taxed when it was sold as first-hand. So, and second-hand operators need all the help they can get, especially in these trying times. So going for this tax would be an issue. That being said, of course, we do know that some countries are primary recipients of second-hand apparel, and then they need to deal with it. So this is another issue for the European Commission to deal with and to somehow come up with a system of redistribution of the fees. This is, for the future. But my call is second-hand shouldn't be taxed again.
Yeah, that's true. Please, one more question?
Yeah, thank you. Peter Olajos from the European Economic and Social Committee. I'm not raised my hand on the beginning when you're asking that who is familiar with this industry. I'm a little bit shocked, I have to say that, because first remark, that the title is Balancing Competitiveness and Circularity. I thought in this sector, if you want to be competitive, you must be circular. No, that was my first shock, I have to say. The second is that we know that this regulation, the separate textile collection, is beginning in this year. We know that almost 10 years or many years. And I'm pretty shocked that you said that we are not ready, so we have no industry behind to deal with the separately collected textile. Meanwhile, in the EU, each and every person, you said the number, 16 kilograms of textile each and every year we produced. It's a huge amount, and we do not know the size of the company we would have to build up to handle. You said it's maybe Slovakia size is not enough to, I mean, the textile.
Like collaboration for you know, like pooling in the resources.
So my question is that how is it possible? So how is it possible that there is a decision made by the Parliament and the Council, we have to collect separately, etc. There is legal framework, and we are not ready.
You should ask member states why they have not moved on to install the system for having that separate collection of textile waste. Of course, it is happening. The numbers, I think separate collection today is around 30%, if I'm not mistaken, on average. So with some countries have a higher rate already of separate collection, but the average is 30%. And of course, the objective is to reach ideally 100%. Again, legally, it should start to happen since the 1st of January. Member states, for the moment, are not complying with their legal obligation. That's it. Not complying, not fully complying, because there are systems, there are different systems organizing the collection, but they are not able, from a capacity perspective, to have the full collection of the textile waste today. This will happen in months to come, for months, years to come. But as of today, it's not the case.
Maybe just regarding what you said for the differentiated VAT and so on, if the member states basically would accept that or not, I was thinking, what is the price actually of not having it? What are the costs that member states, just the thought of currently the system that needs to be in place in order to ensure reusability, recyclability of textile, just an idea. And maybe linked to how it's possible that are not ready. If we and you mentioned, for example, for the electronics, for the directive on electronic waste, producer responsibilities, where it is also in the context of critical raw materials, it's putting even more pressure of reuse and so on, because we need to see the big picture from the trees. It is still and with the DG in most of the member states, there is still not fully compliant and the system fully where the electronics are being already this week for many, and when it comes even to the point that for electronics they have a kind of identification registration form to collect and so on. When you go really at the national system, there are still differences. So maybe my question again, it is how to pool maybe all these experiences in a way so that for the textile to learn from not the best, but okay, from a good practices, so that some of the not to say mistakes, but gaps that are already exist maybe in other sectors are not created also in the textile.
Sure, there's a lot of lessons learned, even though of course every sector is different, and I think it's difficult to compare textiles with all its diversity with some other products, but there is some lessons learned. And maybe to inform also everybody, when it comes to stimulating basically the demand for sustainable textiles, the important piece of legislation or strategy that is on the table in Brussels is the so-called Circular Economy Act. This is an initiative that is now being discussed, that should be launched next year. And the whole idea of the Circular Economy Act is precisely to find ways to stimulate demand for sustainable products, not just textiles. And there it's about, it's kind of a thinking process, thinking about taxation, thinking about public procurement, changing the rules of procurement, thinking of other ways to incentivize the consumer. So at least in Brussels, there is an understanding now that it's not enough to push the manufacturers to produce more sustainable textiles, because that is very clear. All the rules are very clear, but we also need to look at the demand side, because today we push the supply side, us, but we forget about the demand side, and therefore we have an imbalance that needs to be addressed. And this Circular Economy Act, which is now up for discussion, should try to bring a rebalance between sustainable supply and sustainable demand. If there is not that equilibrium, it will not work. We're already at the end of the session. Any final comment or question from other people in the room? One more, or, oh, sorry.
Yeah, if we have time, then let me one more about this passport, the digital passport. I'm following the battery passport, which is very simple compared with this, because there is only 8 big producers, so they can follow the whole production from the mining to the cars, and the recycling. But when you said that 200,000 European SMEs producing textile or in the textile business, okay. How is it possible? So, I mean, it's not just a big administrative law problem, you know, what we're creating. So how is it possible to following from the ship to the, I don't know, T-shirt, you know, each and every product? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very valid question, and if I would have the simple answer, I would be very happy. Meaning, there is no simple answer. There is no, it's extremely complicated. As I said, from a diversity, the supply chain in textiles is very, very long. It's very international, very diverse. So you have an element of confidentiality among the, you know, between the different steps in the supply chain. You have an element of quality of data, of comparability of data. All of this, the only thing I can say, I don't know if you're involved in the DPP discussion, is that we have working groups, experts looking at all this. We have pilot projects, testing some kind of DPP for certain segments. So it's really try, error, discussion, and that process will take a few more years to find out how it could work. But I fully share, from an industry perspective, I fully share your concern, fear, that this will become an additional burden for the SME. You know, more paperwork, more data to be filled in for the brand asking. So how to make it useful from a transparency perspective and not make it another burden on the SME, which has already to fill in 25 other papers. That's simplified a little bit, but that is indeed the bottom line question. But please, from...
If I may, but this is our job as an industry to make sure it is done right, because if it is done right, this will be a simplification tool. Compliance could be filed through it. The national authorities wouldn't need to maybe contact the companies. They could check it themselves, possibly. Similarly for enforcement, if there will be a single union register, which I understand is under preparation, it will simplify filing for the EPR schemes as well. So this is our job as lobbyists in Brussels to push the Commission to make it, to create DPP in a way that actually works for the industry, not against it. And I think it definitely can be done. And one more point, we really hope that DPP, for example, in textile, could really help with automatizing sorting, could help with bringing up some of the circularity processes up to scale. And it could be done, if done right.
We have some plans to sorting battery lithium. And when we speak about waste textile, we start to say waste textile is very different to other waste. The first problem is unfair competition. When I read a technical document of a lithium battery, I haven't doubt. When I start to see an etiquette, the passport of textile, I have very problem to understand the composition. When I work with Radici Group, Calcedonia, we start to 90-80% to nylon, polyamide, and 2% I don't know if it's S. So if I must achieve a goal to chemical recycling, I must know this composition. So is a similar problem in the waste textile, unfair competition.
All right. On that point, showing the complexity of the way forward, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you all for being with us. Thanks to our two panelists. And wishing you a nice afternoon and evening here in Dessau. Thank you very much.